Shalom, this is Yair Davidi, representing Brit-Am movement of the 10 tribes of Israel, speaking to you from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. The British Isles on the whole were populated by different peoples. First of all, we had the so-called the native British, the Britons, who conventionally are termed Celts, but this is not really accurate. According to many what present-day historians, the term Celt for the early British inhabitants of the British Isles is not correct. Nevertheless, this is what they are called. So first we had these different tribes of possibly of different origins in the British Isles, where the British Isles include the areas of Ireland, Ulster, Scotland, Wales and England. All of that region. The British Isles were settled by different tribes. After that there came the Scots, also came from elsewhere and settled in what is now Scotland. Then came the Saxons and the Angles and the Jutes and related Germanic peoples, or peoples who spoke Germanic languages. So they were not necessarily physically related to the present Germanic peoples. And they also conquered portions of the British Isles, especially that area now known as England. And after them came the Vikings, the Scandinavians from Denmark and Norway. And they settled in other areas of the British Isles, of what is now England, and also parts of Scotland and of Ireland. They also contributed to the ethnic conglomeration that settled this region. And nevertheless, out of all these different peoples, we have been able to determine that most of them, or all of them, were descended from the 10 tribes of Israel. The 10 tribes of Israel come from the 12 tribes of Israel. Originally there were 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel split into two different sections. The northern 10 tribes set up their own kingdom of Israel. They were separate from the kingdom of Judah in the south. These northern 10 tribes were conquered by the Assyrians. They were taken into exile and they lost their identity. And they lost awareness of who they were, they lost awareness of their Hebraic origins. Nevertheless, prophecy predicted that they would stay together, and they did do so. And prophecy also predicted that they would be found in the British Isles and the western portions of the world, as considering the land of Israel to be the centre of the world. And this is too what did happen. We can trace after these peoples who were taken into exile by the Assyrians. We can determine where they went to, what became of them. We can trace different sections of them as they moved to the north, and then they moved to the west in different stages and different groups, but they all converged, they're all coalesced in the west of Europe. And they also populated or contributed to the population of the British Isles. And we can identify these peoples who settled in the British Isles by their names, by names of their places, by legends, by all different types of indications. And we may attribute to different groups, we may equate them with the Hebraic tribes and with the clans within the tribes. For instance, we had the Caledonians, who we may relate to the Gilead and Manasseh, on the continent also known as Gilad, or Galadon. In Welsh tradition, we had the Dan and the Don from the tribe of Dan, who were, these Dan and Don peoples were to be found in Ireland, in Wales and Cornwall, and also in Scotland, and in what is now England, northern England. We had the Parisii in Yorkshire, who were related to or descended from Perish or Peres of Machir, the son of Manasseh. And we had the Simeni from Simeon on the east coast, and also the Achini from Yachin of Simeon, also on the east coast in the same area. We had numerous others, and these are all explained and detailed in our book, The Tribes, that specialises in this type of identification. At all events, on the whole, we may say that in the British Isles there settled elements from all of the tribes of Israel, but from the tribes of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh were overwhelming, predominant in this area. And several countries, several nations emerged from the population of the British Isles. We had the USA, we had Canada, Australia, New Zealand, And we had also numerous ethnic elements that contributed to the populations of the West Indies and Jamaica and other areas. Also in South Africa, a lot of British has settled, and all over the world there are elements of Britain in numerous places. Nevertheless, they remain on the whole in the cohesive units centered on Britain, or allied, or aligned with the Britain. Joseph had divided into two tribes, as we spoke, Ephraim and Manasseh. Britain and the USA are separate nations. This is agreed, this is obvious. It is also quite generally accepted that the other nations, Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and so on, have a commonality amongst them. They belong to the British Commonwealth, first of all. Not only do they belong to the British Commonwealth, but they have similarity in characteristics and values in their political history. They all, up until now at least, automatically participated in the wars of each other. As soon as Britain went to war, so did Canada, New Zealand and Australia, and so on. So all of the other nations apart from the USA may be attributed to one section of the units of Joseph, and the other section may be given over to the USA. So that one or other of these elements is Joseph, is Ephraim, and another element, another section, the second section, is Manasseh. So which is which? There are people who believe that the lost in tribes are in Western nations, and also think like we, that Joseph did become dominant in the British Isles, but they say that the USA represents Ephraim, whereas Britain represents Manasseh, and we think this is incorrect. We believe, or we actually have proven, that Britain is Ephraim and the USA is Manasseh. And we've also given other talks concerning the identification of the USA with Manasseh. This present talk and the talks that will come after it concerning Ephraim in Britain amongst the British should be considered as supplementary and complementary to what we have spoken about previously concerning Manasseh and the USA.